Welcome to our Spotlights on Creation series. Do you like nature programs on TV, but are fed up with the agenda of placing evolution into everything? It doesn't have to be this way. Naturalists were studying nature long before evolutionists came along. The focus of our programs is to give you the observable science of nature without the millions of years. What you want is natural science without evolution. Searching for flowers may not seem as glamorous or exciting as a big mammal safari or a birding trip to some exotic location. Flowers just sit there quietly. But there is something truly special about the glory and majesty God gave to His flowers. In fact, flowers are an area of nature that everyone can participate in, since no matter where you live, you can enjoy flowers. I am in the Great Basin of Nevada, not an area most people think of searching for flowers, but I'm actually surrounded by flowers. This is a gray rabbit brush, and here is its single tiny flower. A large plant in full bloom can easily have 50 to 100,000 individual blossoms. Since there are rabbit brush blooming in every direction, I am literally surrounded by millions of individual flowers. How many mountain meadows or even planted gardens can claim that? When we look at the general colors of nature, we see the brown and green of trees and the blue of water and sky. But flowers are the glowing bits of primary color that touch up fields and mountains and shady forests. Without them, nature would be much drabber and not as interesting. But there are rarities in the flower world, just like in the animal world. Searching for them can be just as difficult and just as rewarding as any animal rarity. One of the groups I especially enjoy are orchids. They usually have clusters of tiny flowers in bold colors, often with fancy frills and spurs. I vividly remember discovering a small purple fringed orchid in a cool, foggy birch forest of Vermont. In the crushing August humidity of Virginia, we emerged into an open area beside a lake, and there at my feet was a spire of yellow fringed orchid. It made all the discomfort of the weather worth it to see such a glorious display. Lady slippers are still another variety of orchid. Delise and I backpacked through the Northwoods forests of Isle Royale National Park in Lake Superior. We repeatedly found ourselves bent down under all our gear, enjoying another variety of lady slipper. Thrilling! Lilies are another of my favorite families. Climbing through the high country of California's Sierra Nevada, it seemed every stream crossing was graced by tall tiger lilies, like exploding orange fireworks. I especially seek out spring displays of Mariposa Tulip lilies in grasslands and deserts of the West. Many are easy to find. But then there are the special discoveries, like the stunning desert Mariposa Tulips I located in an upland Sonoran grassland among thorn bushes and cactus. Some of the most awesome flower gardens are the Rhododendron and Azalea thickets on the tops of the Appalachian Mountains. You think they must have been planted, as they rival the most famous botanical gardens. Pink and white and red and orange varieties mix together or form pure stands. Hiking through them is a foretaste of heaven. It has required a lot of hiking through every variety of habitat for me to find all the flower species I've seen, but it's certainly worth it. So go take a walk in whatever habitat you live in and find the lovely jewels God has planted in His gardens. But first, let's watch the following creation spotlight on the wonderful designs of flowers. This spotlight on creation is part of a series of around 20, many of which are only available on DVD. Visit our website to order them all, and be sure to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our new videos. So enjoy a sample of natural science without evolution.
we think about flowers, we often picture those grown for abstract beauty to be given as tokens of affection or to decorate our homes and churches. But why do flowers exist? What did God create them for? Plants occur everywhere that life can survive. Animals could not exist without plants forming the basis of the food chain. Plants occur everywhere that life can survive. Animals could not exist without plants forming the basis of the food chain. Plants also create oxygen and consume carbon dioxide, making animal life possible. 80% of the world's plants have flowers. They vary from large, colorful, and showy, to others so tiny that we rarely notice them. So flowers must be important, since so many plants have them. The primary reason for the existence of flowers is reproduction. Flowers contain the germ of new life. Each flower produces microscopic pollen grains by the millions to join with the waiting cells in other flowers to form new life. Pollen is so unique to each plant that it becomes like a key that will only unlock its own species. This prevents the blending of unrelated plants because flowers will ignore pollen that doesn't match their own species. Flowers usually need help to spread their pollen to other flowers. Most grass pollen is spread by the wind, so their flowers are small and don't attract animal helpers. But most flowers rely on insect partners. God created insects to work with flowers in a beneficial system of mutual aid. These flowers produce nectar, a sugary liquid that rewards insect visitors. When the bees, wasps, and true bugs smell the sweet fragrance of the nectar and land, they are covered by pollen that will be spread to the next flower the insect lands on. In this way, the insects get their food, and the plants are pollinated. Since certain insects can see ultraviolet and infrared light, many flowers have colors and patterns only visible in those spectrums. This helps guide insects to the nectar. Some flowers will only give up their pollen to bees that can release it by vibrating their wings at specific frequencies. Hitting the right note triggers a cascade of pollen onto the bee. Some flowers have elaborate shapes that allow only one species of insect to gain access to the nectar. Other flowers are designed for unusual partners. Some smell like dead meat and attract flies and beetles looking for carrion. These flowers don't produce nectar, since these insects won't drink any. But many birds pollinate flowers, and they drink lots of nectar. Since birds have a poor sense of smell, flowers designed for them don't use fragrance, but rely on brightly colored petals. Hummingbirds and sunbirds are totally dependent on flower nectar for food. Some flowers partner with mammals. Since color is not the best way to draw mammals, a strong musty or yeasty smell is used instead. Those that rely on rodents are placed low on the plant, face the ground, and are dull-colored. Those that rely on bats open at night and are large and white, since this helps bats see them in the dark. Perhaps the strangest pollinators of all are the geckos that crawl from flower to flower, transferring pollen on their chin and legs. Once pollination is successful, seeds will form where the flowers were. Sometimes the seeds are small and dry, dispersing on their own by the wind, or by hitching a ride on animals. Some plants are designed to propel their seeds as far as they can by using catapults, cannons, or springs. But many seeds are covered by fleshy pulp to tempt animals to spread the seeds by eating them. These are berries and fruit, many of which are crucial to our food supply. Without flowers, there would be no fruit. So we see again how God's designs provide for all. What about trees? Trees are just long-lived plants, and many have flowers as well. Trees are divided into two major categories. The first are called conifers. These have small or narrow needles that retain moisture and so are well suited to dry and cold habitats. The small surface area of their leaves means they can only produce a small amount of energy with the limited chlorophyll in them. Most retain their needles for years and drop only a few at a time as they are replenished. High mountains, cold northern latitudes, and deserts are dominated by this type of tree. The second tree group have flat, thin leaves that are well suited to wet and hot habitats. The large surface area of their leaves means they produce large amounts of energy, but also means they lose water constantly. Most lose their leaves every winter and regrow a new set in the spring. Jungles, warm temperate latitudes, and riversides are dominated by this type of tree. Conifers have no flowers, but they do produce pollen in vast quantities and let it fly on the wind. When pollen succeeds in finding a fellow tree, seeds form in a hard protective case called a cone, which vary greatly in design. In contrast, deciduous trees all have flowers. Some are very inconspicuous, like the tiny ones on oaks. These again rely on wind to disperse their pollen. But the rest have showy flowers, and some of the largest and most distinctive flowers are found on trees. So flowers are practical structures designed to enable plants to survive. But just because God makes flowers useful doesn't mean they aren't beautiful as well. Flowers come in all sizes and colors and shapes. Many smell wonderful to our noses, providing us with both visual and olfactory pleasure. But when sin entered the world, all life was damaged and changed. Thorns were added to plants for defense. Some plants now have toxic sap or thick latex. Plants were changed to live in new habitats. Deserts are filled with cacti, which have to be tough, water-hoarding, thorny fortresses. Wetlands have plants built for total immersion, able to grow underwater and flower on the surface. Prairies, swept regularly by fire, have grasses with roots so deep that they can quickly regrow new shoots. Plants of high mountains and Arctic have insulated hairy leaves and tiny flowers low to the ground to avoid the bitter wind. Some alpine plants slowly grow for 25 years before their first flower emerges and blooms. Each species is specialized to meet its own conditions, giving this world an incredible diversity and complexity. Flowers provide beauty and elegance everywhere they are found. God made flowers to give us delight while providing for the continuation of the plants. God cares for all of His creation. When we see the way plants and animals are dependent on each other, we realize how dependent we are on God's care and the intricate ecosystems He has made. They are the support system that make all life, including our own, possible. If destroyed or broken by our carelessness, all of us suffer lasting harm. Jesus told us to consider the flowers. Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Flowers are the graceful jewels that enrich nature while serving a useful function. Each time we gaze upon one of God's beautiful flowers, we can be assured that we are a part of His master plan. His is a beautiful plan in which He promises to provide for our needs.